Do you feel like you tend to have a nurturing disposition toward others too? Like you have to be the fixer?
Yeah, I'm definitely a fixer, that's for sure. And that comes from my own place of insecurity and like need for control. And, having like done therapy for so many years, like I think since I'm 15 years old, so I've been in therapy for like 20 years now. But, even from a young age that I act out when I really feel like things are not in control. And I have this mentality that like, I'm the one who can fix it no matter what it is, including a person. So really feeling like I have this ability to like be in control of a situation, which is now probably a big part of why I'm glad that I found like a higher power, like a conception of some higher good and some higher energy, that I'm not in charge. It's like a huge relief in a way, it's like this daily relief that I'm like, man, I definitely don't have to like make every decision about everything in my life. It just is too much work. It's exhausting. And it did burn me out, with trying to fix a different person, with feeling like I had to fix him. And he never asked to be fixed. That's one thing I really have to keep in mind with other people, is like they're usually not looking for someone to fix them. So even though I'm very nurturing, and like you're asking, I have a nurturing personality, I definitely do. And I think I'm very, like I said, very emotional and like compassionate, but I didn't always like, direct that the right way, or like in a very healthy way with people.
Yeah. And I think that can be really hard. I tend to want to make sure things are under my control too, because it's kind of like, well, I know better, or
Yep,
or do this, trust
definitely.
me, it'll come out better. But you're right, not everyone wants that advice all the time. So then you're just giving them added pressure, I guess, in life that they're not asking for.
Right.
And you said about trying to like finding spirituality in a higher power, that you're just resting control in that power, and that can bring you a lot of relief, and
yes,
that you don't have to burden everything, and you don't have to control everything. And if a day goes totally off what you imagined, then it's not really up to your control anyway.
I mean, all I can control is like what I do with it, and like my own choices. And I guess how I act or don't act on my feelings is really what I'm learning at this point in my life. It's just that like we're so driven by emotion, and we make so many decisions just based on emotion, which is so weird. Like if you think about it, like what other species, nothing else does that. Nothing else like that walks this earth is like, I feel sad, I'm going to break up with this person. Like there's nothing like it. And we just, let it drive us into so many decisions, and like just from a moment to moment basis based on our feelings. And I have to remember, that my thoughts and my feelings are not always correct. They're not always right. And they don't always have my best interest. But I do know that like this God that I believe in, and my concept of a God is, it doesn't want me to be struggling with those feelings or emotions. It wants me to be like, having like a good day, just to put it super simply. Like, I believe that there's like something bigger than me that's in control and has me and has my back, that just genuinely wants me to like do well and just have a good day. And so I have to remember that whenever any like thoughts or feelings come up that are kind of spinning me out of control, just to back up and be like, listen, like the person who's really in charge, or my God that's really in charge of all of this has got my back and wants my greater good. So I don't need to be panicking and making chaos out of nothing, or, when I'm bored, like make, irrational decisions or be impulsive or anything like that. I'm able to kind of step back and think like, what's really going to be the best move right now? And that has taken years to be able to pause and just have a little bit more patience and really trust. The point of all of this and having these feelings and emotions is not to make impulsive decisions, or, to just flip things like quickly and get instant gratification. It's really a big process.
Right. So that's why it really takes a long time to make any decision. It's really hard to just know exactly what you're going to do, especially like you said, our emotions change so frequently, and it depends on the time of day. So,
totally.
So you really got to take a step back and kind of evaluate everything before you make a big decision like that. But yeah, it does sound like you've exhausted all of your options with this relationship. I mean, it was it was good for many years, and that's kudos to you guys for having a healthy relationship for that long. But I guess it ran its course. But it's interesting that you told me that you guys did couples counseling for 2 years. Was he agreeable to doing that? Did he do his own counseling as you were doing your own individual counseling? And
not consistently, but yeah, he did agree to it. I definitely, speaking of like control issues, like definitely had like an agenda of like that he was going to agree with everything, or like do things my way. And it was great to have a counselor for both of us, you know, in the same room, because it shed some light on the fact that like my way is not always the best way. In fact, a lot of times it was a very confusing way because I complicate things quite a bit. And so for someone pretty like, you know, neutral like him, it was causing a lot of like distress in our relationship because I did have that need for control. So he did go to his individual therapy a little bit during that time. I did. I saw a therapist sometimes even twice a week, but I saw someone weekly during that time individually as well.
Okay, well, that's good. He was at least agreeable to trying. A lot of people, I feel like, have problems in their marriage and they don't ever try to seek out counseling as an option.
Yeah,
and they just kind
it's
of
true.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know that I would have done that either without some advice from my sister, you know, from having seen the different like ways and success versus really difficult divorces, you know. We did have like a pretty seamless divorce just because I think we had learned such critical communication skills during that time. And this kind of sounds weird, but like our couples therapist probably was like the biggest instrumental piece of like us being able to get divorced. Even though that wasn't the goal, obviously, like you go in to like save your marriage or like help your relationship. Like by the end of it, it was just like, thank you for giving us the tools to be able to like maintain some courtesy, like some level of like respect for each other while we exit this marriage. And she agreed to see us a couple of times, actually, even after the divorce, after the separation, to be able to kind of work through like, you know, the next steps, like into what we had hoped would be a friendship, which since then has not really been the case, but at least it was cordial. And we did not go through a big process with lawyers. We did get mediation. So we had like a one-time fee with this woman who like did all of our paperwork and tried to like advocate for both of it, or not advocate, but like just get an understanding of what we both wanted out of it. And it's not very conventional, like the way that our agreement ended up. I decided to give him like half of everything, including like my stock and my 401k and like just different, and like agreed to like pay him out for the house and to pay the equity and to pay what it had accrued, like it, you know, just to, and pay back like what he put down on the house or the condo. I just didn't want him to like, you know, I wanted to just feel like I was going to like be able to go to sleep at night knowing that like I did everything I could to try to save the marriage and everything I could to like be like a good person to him and be the best person that I could after make this important decision that he didn't agree with. He didn't want the divorce, you know, that wasn't how he envisioned things going. And so even though he did agree to grant me a divorce, I just felt like it was really important for me to like be financially fair and like not have him be destitute just because I, you know, like I had been making kind of like more money and all of that. It just seemed more important to me that I was going to be able to like be good, you know, feel peace with myself by trying to do the right thing and like help him out financially, especially like from the beginning when we first split up, you know, it was like, I didn't want him to be, you know, just left without anything. And plus I got the dog in the house. So I felt like I needed to, like,
yeah.
you know,
you felt like you had to make it fair in your own mind so that you don't have any guilt, and you felt like it was at peace and you did everything you could and you were more than generous with splitting half. I do have a curious question about the stocks. How does that work when you split stocks? Because you obviously haven't sold them yet, right?
Right. No, I didn't sell them. So he just made an account. Like I used E-Trade and it's through my company. So he made like an E-Trade account and I just like told them to transfer half of my stock to him. So that was it.
Like the shares.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So then
shares,
he has his own shares now. You have your own shares.
Right.
Oh, okay. Right. Interesting. Legal question. Yeah. I mean,
and I don't know if he like cashed it out or if he's, you know, like done anything with it. I don't know. It's in my business, but yeah, it was just like, I just gave him the shares themselves.
And who gave you that idea? Because that I don't think I hear about as often. So was it just something that you felt like, I want to do this, let me do this for you? Or did the mediator suggest it or someone that you talked to?
No, nobody suggested it. That's for sure. People were actually very discouraging of doing anything like that.
And your 401k?
And the 401k. They did not encourage that. And looking back, I think I should have taken a little bit more time, but I don't know that it would have changed the outcome. I just remember having that conversation with him one night and being like, I'll give you half of everything. I'll give you, I know you were counting on this 401k to be some security for our future together. I'll give you half of whatever accrued in the time of our marriage that you were kind of counting on for the future. I don't know why I gave him half the stock. I don't know what drove me to do that. I didn't really think about it like twice. I just said it out loud and was like, that feels right. Obviously, buying out for the condo was the right thing to do, and paying, giving him half of what we had put down was the right thing to do in my mind. So I didn't really think about it. But after the fact, talking to people, apparently this is like very unusual to like have done that, and to still be trying to make payments and basically like pay him off. I'm still in the process of doing that.
I've heard of it where I guess if it becomes contested, then there's like negotiating and it goes back and forth. I've seen how that can happen. And I have heard of someone where she got to keep the house, but she had to give her husband her entire 401k. Whereas you guys were more mutual.
Like I said, it was like very fortunate. I think it was very, like as far, it wasn't mutual, but it was like cordial, It was agreeable.
Yes. Let me correct myself. It was a mutual. He did not want out of the marriage. Do you know that if he was unhappy or if he was perfectly content with continuing the marriage?
I think he was totally content with it. I think there were always things to improve, but I think that he felt like as long as we were happy or like moving, I could kind of ask him like, what do you see in your future? And he said, just being happy with you. And for me, like that was like a huge, like did not compute at all, because I was like, happiness is not a destination. Like it is something that you got to like work for every day. You're not like going to be happy. You're not. Whereas I was like, I want to make an album. I want to be performing. I want to be like, making a huge source of income someday, with my music and hopefully one day, like having that be my only source of income. I want to tour. I want to do, like I had all these dreams and visions, and COVID kind of fucked up stuff, but like, it's just it just shifted it. It didn't remove it for me. And so, at the time of ending the marriage, I just thought like, I am just like, I got to let go of anything that I think is going to be in my way or slow me down. And, for a couple of different reasons, I kind of saw him as one of those things that was slowing me down. And I think it's just because I wasn't like clear on what the goal was. And for me, for, whatever reason, like that's like really important to me. And I think that's important to a lot of people, is to feel like your person has, a very tangible direction that they're going in that's going to be like a secure future. And like I said, he's great at what he does with bikes and everything, but I did not see myself like being married to a bike mechanic when I'm 80,
Yeah. Well, we send good wishes to him. Hopefully he advances in that career or another career of his choice.
Yes. Only goodwill, just all the good energy. But
and you speak about it like it was a good conclusion and you got closure and everything. So I think it speaks to a lot about who you are as a person, that you offered like, let me still help you. Let me still take care of tie any loose ends up and take care of you for a period of time while we're going through this transition period of getting a divorce, that you didn't just leave them high and dry. And I think that definitely speaks volumes about the type of person that you are and who you are genuinely, and how kind you are to do that. And I can totally understand that, like, well, he didn't want the divorce. I'm the one asking for it. And so I should try to make my due diligence and make sure he's taken care of and not struggling after we dissolve the marriage. So yeah, I'm sure he was very appreciative of that. I like that you followed your own gut, even after people were telling you, no, don't do that. Why are you doing that? Why are you giving him half your 401k? But it's what felt right to you. And that's what you ended up doing.
For sure.
Save yourself that trip to the market. Instacart delivers fresh local groceries to your front door in as little as 1 hour by connecting you with personal shoppers in your area to shop and deliver hand-selected groceries from your favorite stores. Instacart even highlights deals to save you money, which is convenient if you're like myself, who somehow just suck at using coupons. Get free delivery on your first order over $35 by using the link in today's show notes, which in turn helps support this podcast.
Well, I mean, I should definitely put on the record in case he ever hears this interview. I put him through hell. It wasn't all the time and it wasn't intentional, but like being in a relationship with someone with bipolar disorder, I can't imagine being on his side of things. When we first got together is like right when I got my diagnosis and started on medication and like in treatment for bipolar disorder. And he was with me that whole time. I mean, like you said earlier, I think you kind of alluded to this, that we had met for a reason, et cetera. But like, I truly deeply believe that in some way he probably saved my life because I was, by being with him, because he didn't drink or smoke or use, and he's like very even keel. And so he was a very solid source of energy for me for a long time. I think I just didn't really, at the beginning of it, especially, I wasn't even thinking through like what my future was going to be like. And so I wasn't really concerned with his either at that time, but I was very just like unstable. I was really like trying hard in therapy and psychiatry with like meds and, all of this like work that I was trying to do to get stable. And I did find some stability, and I can attest to having a good psychiatrist and a good therapist and a good doctor and being on the right medication. I've lived a very full life, like a very, that sounds weird. Like, it's not like my life is ending, but just like I've been able to like be very, functional and like very successful in like society and keep a full-time job and like wake up in the morning and shower and do, like just a lot of things that like people with bipolar disorder are often like find it very difficult to do some of these things because the mood cycling can be very rapid, and it can be and it also can be kind of like every month or so, or every 6 months, or every year, that you kind of go between these manic and depressive episodes. And so when you're with somebody for 10 years, he saw me through all those things. He saw me through very rapid cycling. He saw me through like very deep dark depressions, trying to get medication stabilized. And then there were some years where I wasn't completely honest about my alcohol use. And when you're on medication like that, it's very dangerous to mix alcohol and certain mood medications. It's very discouraged. Any psychiatrist is going to tell you, if you have a mood disorder, don't do substances that alter your mood. It doesn't make sense. Like, pick one, like, I mean, they didn't tell me that, but I'm just saying, like, why spend money on both, like either do meds or do drugs. Like, I don't really like see why I did it that way. I think it's because I wasn't totally on the right medication. But being with him, like, and that he stayed with me during that, and that he, supported my dreams and my artistic endeavors and was willing to like, make dinner, like clean the house while I was at rehearsal, or like take care of the dog. And like, I was getting home at 12:30 or 1 a.m. after rehearsals or after the show, and he would be there. Like, it's clear that like there was a give and take for both of us in the relationship. And especially like I went off of one of the mood medications, telling my doctor and telling other people that I felt better, quote unquote, and like felt like I was more stable. And really my agenda was so that I could be drinking alcohol in a more like safe way, in a way, so that I could be, drinking again. This is really when I think kind of the height of my alcoholism, kind of started, is when I went off that medication so that I could drink publicly. I had been telling people I was sober for years, but there were a few years where I was drinking secretly, and I was drinking in secret. And that had a huge effect on my marriage and now my relationship, without him probably ever understanding or knowing exactly what was going on, because he didn't know. I never even fully came clean about that. So surprise if you're listening to this. But there was, just times when I was just in a deep, dark place that he couldn't really access, and he stayed with me. I chose to smoke weed and drink over him on a daily basis for over a year, to his face, despite him having an alcoholic father who died, in part from that, and had esophageal cancer. And yet I chose to smoke cigarettes. Like, it just was very cruel, I think, in a way, even though that wasn't my intention. I had an addiction. It was never like, fuck you, I'm going to drink this in front of you. It was like, I'm out of control with my emotions. I don't want to feel them, so I'm going to numb out from them. And this is the fastest way to do that.
Yeah, that's very powerful what you just shared. I hope if he does listen, then this brings some closure and understanding to him as well.
Right.
And it's very powerful for you to be sharing that piece, that now you're owning up to it and realizing that it did have an effect on your marriage, and you were just, I mean, it's an addiction. You're just out of control. You just Yeah, you can't really stop. And like, you know, inside that you shouldn't because it's a trigger for him and everything with his family past, but that's what an addiction is. And yeah, and it's very important for people to understand that. But
yes,
I was wondering, did COVID play any part into, because you guys divorced a few months kind of after COVID started, did that play a part into your drinking or your relationship?
Yes. Oh my God, a huge part. There were times when I would get off work and go like on the way home, and I would like stop at this bar and like get chips and queso and drink like 5 Blue Moons and just like talk to the bartender and think it was like this really fun time. And then I would get home and just have to pretend like I wasn't drunk and like brush my teeth or like eat chili cheese Fritos or something to like cover up the smell, you know? And like, so there were months where like really this was going on where I was still working in the office. And then, you know, when I started working from home, I didn't have to stop at a place to get alcohol. I just had it in the house already. So I could just start drinking as soon as work was off. So that left me with a few good hours before he got home from his job to just like be alone with my booze and just like, you know, waste that time and waste that energy just getting drunk. And it was, you know, an escape, like I said. And those were just unresolved emotions. You know, I thought that drinking was the problem, but really the problem was much deeper and drinking was the symptom. It isn't until like in this last several months, like almost a year now, that I really realized that and like been actively working on it. And but during that time, during COVID and working from home, it's like everything. I think everyone became a fucking alcoholic during COVID. You know, it's like some people like turn their life around and they like bought gym equipment and got like really in shape and whatever. And other people just fell off the fucking wagon and like fell apart. I don't know that it had a lot to do with like the divorce directly. I think that kind of was inevitable. But I think that by drinking so much during that year, it really fucked up my mental, like I was just, and by choosing it over him and over like having a healthier relationship every day, like that was a huge, you know, took a huge toll on it. And yeah, I think that was definitely because of, you know, working from home during COVID, just having that accessibility.
Yeah, go sneak out or something. Yeah. Yep. So during quarantine, were you guys, you and your ex-husband, spending a lot of time at home together, or did that take a toll on the relationship, just seeing each other more often because working from home? Or he was still going out and working, right?
He still went to work. Yeah, he still went to work. He was considered like an essential worker because I think his bike shop like repaired bikes for the police, like bike police, that the officers or security or something that like do bikes or use bikes. And so they were considered essential for that. So he was still going to work, which it was very upsetting to me to have him like going in and out of the house all day. They obviously took precautions and people tried to be safe and everything, but I felt like that was very unfair to be like putting us both at risk like that. And I was still getting paid, you know, because I was still working. He wasn't going to get paid if he didn't go into the bike shop. So he had to, you know, he made that decision every day to go, you know, despite me being like pretty upset about it. I didn't want to get sick. I didn't want him to get sick. And he didn't. We didn't. Neither of us got COVID. I still haven't had COVID. But there's just, you know, for some reason, even though he was gone, it was like it felt like we were still together more. And I think part of it is, and we were together more actually because I wasn't performing, because there was no audition opportunities or performance opportunities, and so we were just home together every night. And there were definitely times, and like we even commented on it, like in our couples therapy, like we're seeing a lot more of each other. And I know a lot of other couples were going through the same thing, but man, it was like you just couldn't really get away. It's like you couldn't even just like, I couldn't even go to that bar anymore and drink, you know, like I couldn't even go to my secret bar run. The bar was fucking closed. Yeah. So I didn't even get my secret, you know, shameful drinking sessions.
Yeah, that's true. I didn't even think about that musical theaters and things like, and churches would be closed, and those are venues that you normally sing at. So how was that like for you? Were you just so antsy to go do something?
Yeah, it was excruciating. It was awful. During that time I had written some songs and kind of taken a stab at songwriting around 2010 or 2011. And that was pretty much in the beginning of when I first met him, and he played the guitar. And so he taught me like 4 or 5 chords on the guitar. And I had my own guitar, and I just like kept recycling like the same chords over and over, and like just making different melodies with them. I could only play like a few things. And so I started writing music. And I mean, to be totally honest, like I shared that music with him, and I felt like there was like it was not received well. Like I did not feel supported in the songs I was writing, and in kind of like a sad way. Well, it's sad to me now. You know, I think at the time it was hurtful too, but I kind of like put that away. Like they all kind of just like went into a box and like kind of just waited. And so during COVID, for whatever reason, the year before for my birthday, he had purchased me a keyboard, like an electric piano. And so I started like pulling those songs back out and kind of playing with them again and like relearning them and doing them on the piano this time. And so my songs kind of started to get some momentum, and I started songwriting again because musical theater stuff was shut down. So I kind of started to play around a little bit more with songwriting, and like writing some new music came out of it. Especially some new ideas started coming when I got sober to make that divorce decision.
So we haven't even talked about your sober journey. Where are you living now?
Yeah.
Your experience with sobriety?
Yeah. So after he moved out, I was sober for 7 months ish, and just like what they call like white knuckling it, like really just kind of being like a dry drunk, like you're sober, but you're not well.
Okay.
And, you know, you're not like really whole or like really living like a very whole life.
Right. You're sober
so
by
kind
semantics, by definition.
Yeah,
but you still
exactly. Yeah. You're basically just like trying not to drink instead of like living a life where you are, you know, not an alcoholic, or you're a recovered alcoholic. So I went to San Diego for a birthday party in June, and I had been very pressured, you know, to drink, to have shots for this person's birthday. And I don't even like shots. And I just said, like, you know, if you want to see me drunk, fine. And I started drinking, and I love beer. And so like, they started buying me beers. And, you know, being an alcoholic, you pick up a drink and by definition, you can't stop. You have what's called like an allergy of the body to alcohol. And we have this obsession of the mind where you start to really have this phenomenon of craving. You know, this is something that you struggle with as an alcoholic. It's not just like that you love to drink, it's that you cannot stop once you start. And so I think like 8 or 10 years later, I was like jumping off of fences, and like we went to this arcade, and I was like making friends with everybody and like buying people drinks. And just like, and I remember everything and I had like a great night, but the next day it like had unleashed the monster. Like it was like on again. And I was like, oh my God, I missed you. You know, I had been just trying so hard not to drink for all those months, thinking that, oh, I made like this decision to not drink so I could think about the divorce clearly. But then I was like, you know what? I really just shouldn't anyway. I had been discouraged from it by psychiatrists and doctors. You're bipolar. We already, you know, we talked about this. Like you have a mood disorder. You don't need to be drinking alcohol too. It's going to fuck it up. So, which it fucks people's lives up anyway, whether or not they have a mood disorder. But it was just like on again. And so I started drinking again. And now I lived alone, you know, because he was out. And so I had no accountability for any of this. So I lived alone. I was drinking alone. I always had drank alone. I did not like drinking with other people at all. Number one, because I knew I was very different. And in my mind, it was like, no one can keep up. Like, you know, like y'all fucking like wusses, like nobody can keep up with my drinking, when really like I was the one with the problem. And then number two, like nobody would drink like as fast or as much as I liked to. And so I would have drinks with people and they would be on their first beer still. And I was like, I could have had 3 or 4 by that time, you know, but I had to like slow down and like look like a lady and drink like a lady so that I wasn't like some psycho, you know. But when I was alone, I could drink however much I wanted, however fast I wanted. So once I was like, I had done that again, and since I was living alone, I just started drinking again really heavily. I had a couple of like really, really bad nights, were bad enough that I needed help. And I did talk to a doctor, and she said, you are in a manic episode right now and your meds are fucked up, and you need to go to a place where you can't drink while you get your meds sorted out. So I checked myself into a rehab center here in Southern California, and I was in rehab. And since that time, I've just discovered, you know, a way of life that works for me, where I'm no longer a slave to that. You know, I was able to find like the right community and the right path in my life where I was able to, like I said, connect with like a higher power, a higher understanding of what I'm meant to be and what I'm meant to do with my life. And I know for sure it's not to be a fucking alcoholic. I'm not here to be, drunk every day. I'm here to help other people. And if that means, sharing my story about alcoholism and like my recovery, and I hope that does help people. I would encourage you to reach out and get help if anyone listening to this does struggle with that. I can understand the difficulty of it, and I've been there and I have those demons, but I also can say that there's another side to it, that there is a whole other life waiting for you. I know for me anyway, like my destiny is not to be, I think, I'll always be an alcoholic, but now I'm a recovered alcoholic. My destiny is not to be a slave to the alcohol, and it's not to be a dry drunk either. You have to really be working like a spiritual life and like really living very mindfully to really keep that sobriety, and really for me anyway, to just remove myself from like all like the, I was just so full of like, oh, poor me, like so much self-pity and a lot of like self-disgust and just so much like degradation on my own self and who I really am, because I just felt like I was such a fuck up, and coming to rehab and like kind of getting a better understanding of the addiction itself and about what a life can look like without that addiction is a complete game changer. Everything has changed. So I can say that there's hope if anyone receives this message, and maybe it's the right time for them to hear those words from me for some reason. Even if your family's been telling you that for years, or your doctor, or better, whatever, maybe there's something that you needed to hear in that. But for now, I'll just say for myself, it's completely changed my life to get sober and to have like an actual spiritual program that I'm living by.
That's very powerful, and you're quite convincing. So hopefully anyone listening to this will.
I'm not trying to convince anybody, but I do
get the help that they need.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, good for you for checking yourself into rehab, because I know other people might have those type of life event that happens, and then a doctor recommends them, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're going to go. So good on you for checking yourself in. That was a big step.
Thank you.
And just
I never saw that happening in my life. I never ever thought I would do that. Yeah. I mean, especially when you meet other kinds of addicts, and like without going into a ton of detail, like, being in a place where I never thought I'd have to be in rehab anyway, but it was clear that like if I was trying to get my medication straight, like there was no way I was going to be able to do that and not drink. If I was living alone and had all this alcohol at my fingertips, I was going to drink it. If it's available, I'll drink it. So I had to go to a place where I literally just was not allowed until, I kind of came to like a bigger understanding about the addiction itself. And I think that was a happy accident. I think that was meant to be that way.
Yes. Well, thank you for sharing your journey. And now you are a recovered alcoholic. So congratulations.
Yeah. Thank you. One day at a time, baby.
Yep. Always got to include that, one day at a time.
One day at a time. Yep.
And so how long did you spend in rehab, and where do you live now?
So I was in rehab for, I still technically am. I'm in like a sober living right now. I live in an apartment in Thousand Oaks, and I have a couple of roommates, and, I'm still kind of under the care of that same facility. But being in sober living just means like my life is totally normal. Like everything is the same, except that I have to like breathalyze and like do a pee test 3 times a week, just to make sure that I'm not using or drinking. So there's still some accountability. It's kind of like baby steps. I'm trying to like work my way back into like being on my own again.
Yeah, not having someone to take
feel
your
a little
pee
bit more secure
3 times a week.
Yeah, exactly. I don't want to be doing that for the rest of my life, obviously, but for now, I know myself, enough that this is something I still need, is that accountability. So they haven't kicked me out yet.
They're like, you're good. Yeah. What are you still doing here?
I know. I'm like, I'm really not, I struggle still.
Yeah. Only you know yourself the best, and you understand what you need the most. So yeah, especially it could be so deceiving to come off to other people.
For
pretend.
Sure. I still struggle. It's still a struggle, for sure. There are days when I want to drink. There are days when I want to smoke weed. There are days when I want to just drown all my emotions. Like I said, they're changing all the time, and when they get uncomfortable, our tendency is to escape. We don't want to feel it.
Have you made some friends or accountability buddies in your sober living apartment community?
Yeah, hell yeah. Yeah, everyone's very cool here. I've met all different kinds of people from all over the place. And, no matter what your struggle is or what your addiction is, like we all have that in common, that we're just, working it one day at a time, just trying to do our best. And so we all are very supportive of each other. I've made some great friends here. Yeah, lifelong friends.
That's beautiful, because you can really connect and relate to each other in a way that other people can't. Yeah.
Yes, that is for sure. Addicts helping addicts is really the key.
Addicts helping addicts. Yes. Noted. Yeah. I'm glad you've been able to find those lifelong relationships and friendships through where you're living now. And hopefully whenever you're ready, you can transition back to a non-accountable living community.
Yes. I know.
But still remain accountable in your own, on your own will, and not because someone is taking your breath.
Right. Yeah.
But that's amazing. And I'm sure you're helping others that are living near you to live that accountable lifestyle.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks so much for sharing that. I hope you enjoyed this episode. For ways to support the podcast, please tap on the bio link in my Instagram page at MFMP pod. Consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/MFMP. In addition to helping me keep the show on air, you'll also receive access to exclusive content and other patron-only perks. Till next time.